Okay, now that we've finished part one, let's move on to part two. And in part two, what we're going to be doing is using the Dr. Egeria Intro Part 2 Markdown file. And just looking at the right-hand pane, because it's a little easier to read, we can see that this is demonstrating updates and additions. And so now we're going to walk through, we're going to update the glossary that we just created, adding a little bit of text. And then I'm showing here a bit of narrative text that walks through the definition of a new kind of object called a category to create categories within a glossary that we can then put terms into. We can see that a category we're defining here in this little markdown table has the following attributes: category name, owning glossary, and so forth. And we can see which ones are mandatory, input is required, and we can see that it's only category name and owning glossary. We can also see which ones we might be able to generate for you automatically within Egeria, and any notes. What we can see is that qualified name is a name that uniquely defines an object within Egeria, and it can either be user specified, so you can create your own as long as it's guaranteed to be unique, or we can generate one for you. And when we generate one for you in Dr. Egeria, we use a local qualifier, which is just a string that you can define, and there's an environment variable for that. We pull in the type of the object being created, the display name, or in this case it would be the category name, followed by a version if that's specified with the object. And that is used to manufacture the qualified name, and we'll be seeing more of this shortly. So we're going to create two categories here. First category is going to be about writing Dr. Egeria Markdown, and the second category is going to be about processing Dr. Egeria Markdown. Now that we've added the categories, we're going to update the terms so that we can classify them within the categories. And we can see that a term has the following attributes. And again, the term name and the owning glossary are mandatory, they're required, and pretty much everything else is optional. In this case, we're going to be putting this term, command, which is in this glossary, glossary : Egeria Markdown, and this is the qualified name of that glossary. If you don't specify the qualified name and just give it the display name, which would just be Egeria Markdown, we will try to search for it within Egeria, and if it's unique, then it's fine. But if it's not unique, then we'll come back and give you a warning saying it's not unique and you need to give us the full qualified name of the object. You can also see that we're putting in categories here. And so we're putting this term, which is command, in two different categories. So a term can be a member of multiple categories. And we're putting it in both category writing Dr. Egeria Markdown as well as processing Dr. Egeria Markdown. And again, here we are specifying the full qualified name of each of these categories. We could be putting in just the display name. So in this case, it's the category name up here, processing Dr. Egeria Markdown. And as long as it's unique again, it'll be fine. If not, we'll give you a warning. And you'll have to go in and edit your document to put in the full qualified name. Okay, so we're updating the terms and updating the source term, updating the directive term. So all of the terms are going to be updated. So let's go back now that we've walked through this, and we'll just go ahead and run it again. This time, instead of using the Hey Egeria menu system, we can just use the command. So we can say Dr. Egeria MD, and then we give it file path. And in this case, the file name is Dr. Egeria Intro Part2.md, and the directive is going to be, well, again, we'll just say validate. And so you can see this is just another way to do the same thing instead of using the menu system. And as before, we can see that it's valid to update these, make the updates. There's the update term, another update term. We can see that it was validated to create the category, and we can walk down and see what would happen. So now we can just redo the same command. Instead of validate, we'll say process. Great. And we can see that it again generated an output file for us that shows us the file that we put in that's been modified to change creates to updates, and show us the provenance as well. Now that we've processed the second file, let's take a look and see what Egeria knows about things. So we can just say list glossaries, and we can either do this from Hey Egeria or just the command line. We're going to say we're going to look for all glossaries. We'll take the table as the output format, and you can see that we have our new Egeria Markdown glossary here with the description and the usage that we put in earlier. Now we can take a look at the terms that were in. We can say list terms, and we're going to look for all terms that are in Egeria Markdown, and again do a table format, and it shows us the terms that we just put in. Pretty cool. Now we're ready to move on to part 3.